Right, welcome to another basing tutorial here. In this episode we're going to be looking at this more urban desert effect here, which I'm starting to use on a lot of the new armies that I'm putting together. Harlequins would be one of the armies that I'm using this technique. And a secret project I'm working on the Plus channel as well. So in this video I'm going to show you the whole basing process, just from starting with a plain base all the way up to the finish that you see here. So how to put the base together, glue it all together, the bits to use, undercoating, spraying, painting, washes, chipping effect, weathering effect, and all your grass tufts and effects there as well. So just follow the video along step by step. Stop and start the video as you go along, and there's no reason why you can't get the exact same results that you see here in this video. And the whole purpose is just to guide you through it one step at a time, and you can get some great basing results. So I'll just zoom in here so you can see what you can expect there. So a heap of skulls here on this pavement. We'll be showing you how to do this whole technique here as well. It's an abandoned weapon. We'll be showing you how to paint that, and you can see the grass tufts as well also. But stay tuned here. We'll take a look at materials that you'll need for this project next. So it's an easy technique. There's quite a few materials though, but imagine you're basing an entire army, so it's worth doing. Basing is worth making the effort. It really is. It just sets off your models really, especially Games Workshop models, so beautifully sculpted. Plain basing is a tragedy when the models are painted well and the basing looks terrible. So it is worth making the effort here. This is a very strong theme to this one, and I'll be introducing you to some materials that you can use to get this result that you see here. So many materials I'm using are from greenstuffworld.com. You can check them out. I've been on their website a good number of times, and they are a treasure trove of materials for you to use for terrain building, modelling, basing, and so on. I'm going to use a small selection of what they have available here. But check out the website. They've got absolutely everything on there. Great supplies, and the great thing about them is bargain prices as well. So check them out. I'll put a link in the video description below. So materials then, obviously you'll need your base that you're going to use, whichever base you're going to use here. So this one's just a standard Terminator sized base. It's actually for the secret project I'm working on at the moment over on the Plus channel. Then materials then, in no particular order. Green stuff, obviously you can get hold of it from greenstuffworld.com. So I've only got a small bit left. I need to order some more, but there's some of that. Then Green Stuff will produce a set of skulls, come on trays like this, and then you just simply snap them off as you need them, clean them up, and you can place those individually. They're also going to introduce this set here from Green Stuff World. Crunch Times it's called here. It's a vast amount. I mean, one set will do an army, no problem at all. It is skulls, hundreds of them, already sculpted onto the base for you. I've simply been breaking off pieces as I need them, and it's where you want a heap of skulls. You see the base here, heap of skulls, that's just been snapped off of here, cleaned up a little bit and stuck on, and it means you can do heaps of skulls, but it's all just come from this just here. So very useful. I was wondering how I'd use that set, but this style that you'll see here, a set like that, if you're going to break it up into pieces, you should be able to get the whole army done there. And it's large. If you've got a large, say a Demon Prince size base, then you cut the whole thing out and just have pure skulls if you want to. So very cool resource, that one. Then sands. I've got two, or basing materials. I've got two types here. So I've got sand mixed with small stones, like that. That's the final finish. And then I've got a separate box here with just sort of larger stones and small stones. No sand in this one, but smaller stones, larger stones. As I'm basing on a medium-sized stone, I can pick them out as I need them. And underneath, at the bottom, is the smaller stuff. A lot of people ask where I get stones from. Beaches and riverbeds are great spots to look. Maybe if you're on a holiday or there's somewhere you can find that kind of stuff. Or you can go to Aquatic Centre or a builder's merchants. Got to watch out a little bit, because often the stones and sand that you buy has often been sieved and sorted, and so the bits can look very uniform. So I like the more natural look with the random sized stones. Super glue plus activator, very useful. Now this is tufts. Again, this is from Green Stuff World. Here, they do. This is beige. This one here, 6mm beige, has been ticked here on the back. But they do dry brown, winter, dry green, realistic green, dark green, all sorts of variety. There, and you can see it comes in different sizes, so you can dot them about. I reckon if you're doing an army, 2,000 point army, 2 or 3 packs of those. If you're going to use them relatively sparingly, depends what density you want to go for. If you want more, then you'll need a few more packs. Just there. I'm using dead grass here at Games Workshop. I'm not entirely sure if they still produce this, but that's that colour flock just there. There's plenty of other groups out there producing flock, so you can track that down with another group if Games Workshop no longer produce that. Then our base spray here, which will give you the base colour and shade all of the areas for you, plus it will give you the final colour for your rim. That is leather brown here from Army Painter, brilliant spray. And then Militarum varnish from Games Workshop, like a satin finish, this one here. Brilliant spray, really do rate this one. That's just to finish the whole model off, the whole base off and protect it at the very last stage. Cover the skulls there. And then paints. Yes, no, here. This is quite important. Green Stuff will make these rolling pins. They're quite incredible. I've got a few here. The one I'm planning to use in this tutorial is the small bricks. And I'll show you how to do this later on, but you're basically taking your base, put the green stuff on, and then you're rolling across with your design, and it's embossed onto this, and it's the whole length up here. It's all randomized, so you can roll at different parts, and every base that comes out is different to the next. So fantastic invention, this. So small bricks, this one. They do others. This one's called Factory. It's all of your riveted steel plates in different patterns. And then this one, double diamond, that's that diamond effect steel plating theme going on with that as well. Great for like Necromunda type basing styles also. Then paints wise, you see here there's a banded Blood Angels bolter here, so I'll cover what you need for that. But the actual base itself, you'll need Steel Legion drab, Ushabti bone, Ceramite white, then washes, Seraphim sepia, and then Agrax Earthshade, and then optional, you don't have to go for this, but there's some blood splatters on mine, so blood for the blood god, and then the bits that you'll need for the gun. Here, Evil Sun's Scarlet, just to pick out the red cross on this Blood Angels bolter, so it's optional. Iron Breaker, if there's any metal work at all on your base, then just you need that. And then a Baden Black here for the gun casing down the side as well. Not too many paints. And then I'll cover your materials as well, so decent clippers. They'll be useful for cutting out the skulls from this tray. Clipping that off, so it's useful. Modelling knife, just so you can run and grab these bits if you're going to follow along now. A palette, mixing palette and tissue, selection of brushes, and you'll need some PVA glue as well. Now with the glue, try and find PVA glue if you can. Not all wood glue is PVA glue. PVA glue is nice and strong, and add a bit of bend to it as well. Other wood glues can shatter and break, not particularly good, and they can dissolve very quickly if they get wet and so on. PVA glue seems to be a bit better, so I would say try and get hold of this stuff if you can. Polyvinyl acetate, available from most, well, from any hardware store, you should be able to get that, no problem at all. And I think that's all the materials that you'll need. So once your materials are all there, your base is ready to go. The first stage will be to use this rolling pin and with the green stuff, and we'll get that foundational part done, the pavement, in position first of all. So that'll be the next stage for us as you follow along in this tutorial. I'm really looking to do things in batches. I wouldn't do one base at a time. I want to do about 20, or if it's a squad, you're doing the whole squad, 10 models or 5 models. Get all the basing done. Or if you're going to be bold and ambitious, just do the basing for the entire army if you can, and get them all done. Probably would be the most efficient way. Alright, so what we're looking to do here is to take our base and then some green stuff. So I've just been warming this up slightly. You can put it on a Well, you can put it on a radiator, but you've got to be careful you don't heat it up too much. Sometimes it's best just to put it in your pocket, and that'll warm it up quite well and just makes it a bit easier to mix. So just sort of judge how much you think you're going to use. I reckon I'll use just over half of this here, so I'll just break that off. I reckon about that much should be enough. It's cheap enough to buy Green Stuff World supply green stuff, no problem at all. So it's quite pliable here. It's been warmed slightly, and I'm just looking to mix it up until it turns green. And you've got to be patient. You don't want to use this when it's not been mixed properly. You want to get a nice finish on it. You can twist it. I just pull it into lengths and then wrap it back over into lengths again, like so. But this is mixing up quite well. If you go too soft, it will start sticking all over your hands, so you want it just right. If it's too cold, it's going to take you ages to mix it, but this one's mixing up quite well. So you can see it gradually turning green. I'm just pulling it into lengths, wrapping it back over again. That seems to mix it up quick enough. So just keep going here. I'll just give you an idea of how long it takes to mix up. That's looking pretty good. A little bit more. And again, when it's soft, it'll make it a bit easier to push around on this base here as well. So I'm also just going to mix up my hands here. Small bricks then is the one I'm going to use. They do a whole variety of these, but I'm going to be showing you an alternate colour scheme here in this video. So it's just the rolling pins. You can choose different parts to roll off, so every base that you make should be different, which is brilliant. So we'll use that in just a moment. Alright, so this is ready. So I'm going to flatten it just to save a bit of time on the base. And this sticks really well. You shouldn't need to use any glue or anything. You can just push it straight on, and then you're just looking to spread it around this base all the way to the edge. So just using your thumbs, gripping the base and using your thumbs to push it to the edge, just patiently pushing it along. I'm spreading this quite thin, so I don't want the base to be raised too high. I want it nice and thin, and you'll still get the impression, still get all the detail coming up with this rolling pin, no problem. But I want to go up and beyond the edge just a little bit. I don't want to be short, like so. And I'm just going to push to the edge of this one, going all the way around, and just use my thumbs to push out to the edge. It's almost there. That's nicely over the edge, like so. Alright, so one tip, so I'm going to get on with this here before it'll take a long time to try, but you want to get straight on with it. Bit of water over the surface, like so, and that'll help it stop from sticking to the rolling pin. And then nice and firm, we'll choose right at the very top here, and I'm going to roll and pressing down hard and then rolling off the edge, and that's come out really good actually. I'm happy with that. A little bit here where it's not quite gone in, but that's fine because that's where we're going to add some terrain bits on top anyway, so that's no problem at all. And that'll help you decide where you're going to put the little features like piles of or heaps of skulls and so on. So just zooming in here so you can see, but that water, which is almost away now, none of it's stuck to the rolling pin. It's just a bit of water across, and that helps that stick on perfectly. So you see how that's come out. Saves you so much time, and you get a brilliant effect there for not much effort at all. Just using green stuff on the rolling pin there from Green Stuff World. So it's now sort of untidy around the edge here. So I'll take my knife, keeping the knife away from yourself and watching out for your fingers and thumbs, and then I just drag the knife along and sort of in a downward direction, and that'll cut it down and away. I'm doing it quite light here because I don't want to cut into the actual plastic of the base. So you see that nice tidy edge now. Just zoom out a little bit. So just run that around. Just dragging the knife. It seems to work well when you drag the knife down. There, all the way around. So that's tidied that up. And then just using my thumb just to tidy up a little bit more. Take any rough edges off just to smooth everything out. Tidy up the base. It's worth doing this because it's permanently fixed once it's done, so it's worth just taking your time getting it right, like so. And then I've just been fussy here, but just you can take the blunter end of the knife and just any bricks that have been stopped here, you can continue them on off the edge. Like so. There's not much here really to do. But like there, for example, I'll just go in between there. Just doing a final neaten up. Yep. A bit of repair work to do and that's it. So, something like this. And because we've pressed it nice and thin, it's hardly added to the thickness of your base. Now if you do want to raise the base higher, then by all means go ahead. But you don't have to. I like to keep it thin just to make it like it's actually part of the base properly, not a big lump of stuff that's been stuck on top. And still you get all your detail. Like so. So I know this area here is where I want to put some heaps of skulls and so on, just where it hasn't embossed itself quite as good. And this is a really good area. I want to show that bit off for later on. So we'll just move on to the next stage here. So green stuff well produced. This here, it's slabs of skulls. You get a massive amount in with this pack. Absolutely loads of them. Man, I've been doing a fair bit of basing. I've still barely started on this one here. So what I'm looking to do is just looking for an area where I can cut out. So I've got my sharp clippers here, and I just want to identify a little area of skulls. We'll cut in. You'll destroy some skulls on the way through, but they give you this huge slab, so if you want to make a massive base, a demon prince or something, you've got actually able to do it, so it is useful. It's actually naturally started to split here, just along there, so let's come off, like so. And then, it's quite big, but I think we'll get away with that alright. No, we'll leave that part like it is. I'm just going to take off any square edge. You see this edge here is not very natural looking, so I'm just going to nip that off. And this edge here, this flat edge, just to make it nice and natural looking. Give it a general tidy up, and that's ready to go. So there's your heap of skulls, ready sculpted, ready to go. All the skulls at good angles as well. So I think that's a really good feature. And you're just looking for somewhere on the base where it will go. So imagine the model, you know, his legs and feet are just here. Or his legs and feet could go either side of the pile of skulls. This is quite a big pile here, but we'll go right to the edge. So that's cut and ready to go. Nice pile of skulls there. And I'm just going to position it now. And whilst this is wet here, I'm going to choose a spot. I want it to go right at the very edge, just so we've got a little bit of green left there to add some sand and so on later on. I'm just going to press that in, and that'll mark nicely. I'll glue it later, but that should mark for me. It's almost stuck on. There it is. That's it, yeah. That'll mark where I want that to go on later on. You don't have to do it that way. You can stick straight on top of the stones, but if you want a nice flat area to stick on later on, and you want to know where the bit's going, you just push it on like that, and that's in position, ready to go. And then later on, when we come to the gluing, I'll super glue that and it'll never come off. It'll be nice and permanently fixed. So that's that done. Just wait for that to dry. It does take a while, so you want to do a batch, leave them, and then come back to this number of hours later on. Okay, so the first stage then is we'll just lift this off of here. Take super glue and put some on. This is very permanent, so it'll never come off here. And push that down. Like so. And you can use a bit of activator just to set that off. What we're looking to do now is to super glue some bits on for a stronger bond. So there's some key bits like this, and I want to do a few separate skulls as well. So the activator's just gone off. That's now stuck on. So we've got a heap of skulls. It looks a bit artificial, so what I want to do is break this up here. So we're going to take the set of skulls, it comes like this, here, and simply break a few off. So I'd say 3 will do. So 1. They come in all sorts of sizes here. 1, 2, and 3. And this is just to break this up, just to make this look more natural. So I've got a couple of skulls. I'll take my modelling knife here. And just being very careful, just going to take the flash off the bottom where it was joined onto the resin. Just going very, very careful with the modelling knife. You find yourself that you do have to go towards your skin, because I have to hold it this way. Then you're just going very slow with the modelling knife and just pushing it along, using your thumb here to control. So I'm not trying to go for quick movements, but just very, very tight control here. And the blade can go against your skin there. It won't cut. As long as you don't pull the blade along, that's when you're going to cut yourself. So you're just looking to push in. That shouldn't be a problem. Both my hands are on the desk. Stay nice and stable. Again, I'm going to push in ahead. But you get good practice with a modelling knife and you can be safe enough. This quick jerky movements will hurt you, and then if the blade ever goes along and it's sharp, you're going to cut yourself. But pushing against the skin like that, it's not really going to cause any trouble, but you just take your time, be careful. So I'm just cleaning these up. Like so. Alright, so those skulls are cleaned up. Like that. So I wanted to position these, I'll go for one here, just to make this pile look more natural. Now, I'll use a super glue on these because I don't want these getting knocked off. PVA is a bit of a weaker bond. So I'll put one skull here, and I'm just going to tip it a little bit of an angle. Like that. That's sitting on there just great. I'm going to use a bit of activator. So it's that combo set from Green Stuff World. These are excellent, and then your whole pile of skulls here, and you can work them in combination to get this kind of effect. I'm going to put another one just next to the pile here, and this one can go just like that, and then I'll maybe put a second one. I'll tuck it right at the edge here. Something different. Yeah, that looks alright. Bit of activator on that. That's that done. So there, that gives you an idea. Instead of just a pile of skulls, you've got a few loose there, and it just makes it look more natural. And then we put our stones and sand to blend this all in. That should look nice and natural there on that pavement. So that's the next stage. And pretty much because we've used activator and this super glue is dry, we can go straight on with the PVA glue and stones next. Just taking an old brush here, and I'm just going to go around the edges of this main blob, being careful not to get it all over the skulls. Might drop a little bit here where they've sculpted rough ground, because it's resin sculpting and it's not going to look as effective as the set. I'm trying to blend the whole thing in, so it doesn't look like you've cut a lump out of the set here, but it looks like it's all blended together and looks right. So you can see there, I'm just putting the glue all the way around. So the edge that we cut earlier on, that should disappear. I'm going to tuck a little bit here in with this skull. This is where you start to blend it all in. I'm going to run a little bit out with this skull. Sort of semi-join it all together along here. Something like that. Then I'm going to go to the bigger stone tray. Drop a few little stones around. Like so. That's what I'm after. And then into the sand next. Into here. Like so. That's gone on alright. Just take off that stone, looks funny. Just put that on. Tuck that in. Now, there's no panic here with the base. You can see you've got dust and so on all over that. Just simply take a spare brush and just blow out the excess here. Any dust and sand that shouldn't be there. Happy enough with that. And using your fingers, just flicking off any bits of sand you don't want. So I'm just running around the edge here just to tidy that up. And just looking around. Pretty happy with that. So say you come to an area and you can still see the side part of the resin there and so on. Just simply take your PVA glue again. You can apply it directly. Or for a bit more control you can just scoop a bit up on the brush. I'm just going to add a bit more sand to this area. Here. And just in there. And just here at this edge as well. Everywhere else looks pretty good. Yeah. I'll go for a bit here as well. A few little stones. And then into the sand again. Tap off the excess. I'm going to run my thumb around, clean up this edge. It's easy to do now whilst it's all wet, rather than later. And now once I've decided, I'm happy with it, then I'll do the final clean up here. Just want to keep that area clear. And then some of the skulls, like flicking any bits of sand out of the eye sockets and so on. Want them nice and clear for later on. Like so. Yeah, I'm very happy with how that's come out. So I'll just zoom in here to show you. So that gives you an idea, nice and tidy. And the skulls all blended in. If you had a pack of skulls, this would take, you'd use up a load of them, but that sheet that you're able to cut up gets an instant effect and very quick and easy really. That's all set up here. Happy enough. So we'll let that dry. The PVA is going to take an hour or so, depending on the room temperature and so on, but it's best not to disturb it. I want it to dry, I want it to dry bone dry, so that you're able to paint. And because you're going to be doing highlights and so on, and you don't, the last thing you want is the sand starting to come off because it hasn't dried properly. So again, if you're doing a batch, just leave them to the side, come back to them next day, and then you're ready for spraying and painting. Alright, so you have your base looking something like this. The next stage then is to, this is all nicely dried here, solid, looking good. Next stage is to give it a coat of spray. So this is the great thing about this process here. You're going to be spraying, shading the whole thing, all the skulls, all the rim with the final colour as well. So I'm going to use this brown here. It's called Leather Brown. It's from Army Painter. It gives a brilliant coat. I really do rate these. And then we're just going to give that a spray. So when you spray it, you're looking to spray. You're going to put it on. I'm going to put it on top of an old box, and I just spray from this side, and then move the box around that side. Just 4 sides, so just the paint's catching from every angle. Because you want to make sure these skulls get a good coat. Don't want to see any of the resin at all. Coat from all 4 sides. Sometimes you can spray directly on top just to make sure the paint goes down in amongst the details just here. So give that a spray. I've actually got one that I've already sprayed earlier on, and it should come up looking something like this. So all nicely shaded. So the rim's done for me, ready to go in that colour. All the shading done. You can see the road markings there. The pavement looks brilliant, and then all of the detail here. And you can also add in battlefield debris. So I've got an old bolter here, Blood Angels Death Company bolter that's been dropped, just to blend in. Looking pretty good as well. And I just love adding in that kind of stuff. Just give it a nice 40k twist and just add an area of interest. And it's easily done. Just taken one from the bits box, super glued it on, and the actual trigger handle here was missing, so I've just filled that in and put a load of stones on top just there, just to mask that actual piece is missing there. But there it is. So what we'll do, once that's sprayed, make sure it's nice and dry, and then we'll press on and we'll get this one here. I'll show you the next stage for getting this painted up. But once the spray goes on, it really does start to look at the job here. You know, you're moving away from all these different colours. It doesn't look very good with the green stuff and this resin, but once that's sprayed up like that, it's looking the part. So at the first stage, I found that with the pavement here, the shading it just comes out too dark and it makes the squares stand out too much. Just your own personal preference, but I think it's too strong because I want this colour. It's great for the deep shading around the skulls and so on and the gravel, but I think it's too strong for the pavement. So I'm taking my Steel Legion drab and I'm mixing it with about 50-50 with the Ushabti bone. You'll see the colour once it goes on. So you see that colour there. I'm deliberately filling in the shading. And again, this is your own personal preference. You don't have to do this, but I think that shading in between those pavement slabs is too strong. So I'm just going to fill that in with this colour here, like so. And you can make this lighter or darker depending on how you want it to come out. It's entirely up to you. Might darken it down a little bit actually, so I'm going to add some Steel Legion drab to the mix. Hardly notice it, but I'm going to knock that down a shade. You don't have to follow me on this bit, but sometimes you do a highlight and it's too strong. It looks wrong, so it doesn't look right at the moment, but you'll see it as we come to the highlight stage later on here. But I'm just shading in between paving slabs. I want to be neat. If you do make a mistake and clip the side of the base of any paint, just immediately wet a finger and just rub it off, keeping that clean. So I don't want to repaint this. I want to keep this nice and clean, this edge, and it means that I can just spray and finish that without having to paint that again. So something like that. And what I'll do, because we've got the bolter here, we'll cover painting that as well, just to show you how to paint these accessories nice and quick. You want basing to look good, but some people like to spend ages on the basing. I like to just have a decent technique that gives you a really good result, but I want the emphasis still to be on the miniature and the eye to be drawn to that. But there's no reason why you can't get good results with nice quick technique here. So I'm going to add a little bit of metal work here to this bolter. It's the shading that's going to do all the effects for us, but I'm taking the iron breaker. One question people have been asking is, why do you paint straight from the pot? But I do maintain the pots. I add thinning agents to them and so on, so they're usually in a pretty good state here. Yeah, so I'm just going to paint the metallic work now on the gun. Don't have to be too fussy with this. So just working that round. So running along that. Just wherever the metalwork's meant to be. And just tuck it in there. And it's looking alright. Okay, so that's your metalwork sorted out. Usually, For a bolt gun there'd be like an Imperial crest. There isn't here, it's a Def Company one. So you can add in a drop of red to shade that. So I'll take a bit of Evil Sun Scarlet and just touch that in. So the red cross, the actual blood drop as well, like so. Then Baden Black for the bolter casing. But you paint whatever weapon you want. You might have spare Tau stuff, you can stick that on, or Dark Eldar, or Cow Space Marines, whatever you've got hanging around your bits box. It's great to use up those spare bits and add them onto your basing. And you'll see here it's not much effort. And I think it adds a great little bit of detail for not much effort at all. The time it takes just to stick one of these onto the base, I think it's well worth it. So I would be a big fan of basing here, doing it properly. There you go. So that's that just tucked in there. So that's the colours. We won't paint the skulls yet. We'll pick those out later on. I'm going to give it sort of a general dry brush here across. There's going to pick out the paving here and then pick out all the detail on the pile of skulls and rubble as well. So I actually have a base brush here from Games Workshop. I've just damped it there very slightly. A pure dry brush can clog up and dry up too much, so a slightly damp bristles helps. Just stabbing the brush out here on the palette and then wiping some excess off there onto the tissue. And I reckon I'm going to start, I need the brush quite dry to get a good effect on the paving slabs here, so I'm going to start by highlighting these skulls and rubble. Now some of the paint's gone onto there. Just going to scrub onto the paving. I think that is a lot softer on those paving slabs there. See, you have a deep shade there and it can look wrong, it can spoil it by having too strong a shade or shadow going on. So just to put that colour in between cracks there really helps. Being careful around the bolter. Not to be too fussy, but it's just worth being neat. Now I'm going to scrub a bit more. I want to pick out a little bit more of these paving stones. I'm going to scrub along the back. Now I'm really going to try and pick out these skulls here. So catching the skulls from the right angle here. Catching the edge just to sharpen it up. Again, being careful, don't want to get any on the rim. And keep that nice and tidy. This really is where the change comes in. You can see that base coming together nicely here. Like so. And a bit more on these skulls. Alright, whilst the brush still has some of the Ushabti bone still on the bristles, I'm going to stab into this ceramite white here and mix it up on the palette. So I want pure white, I want an off-white colour. So I'm actually mixing it in with where I had the Ushabti bone on the palette here. So I'm going for, I don't want pure white, it's too stark, too strong. Just an off-white colour. But you'll see it once it goes on. Again, picking out the skulls and the gravel. Picks those out nicely. Working our way around the side here. And then carefully on the pavement, I'm just flicking it on. I don't want it to be as strong a highlight here. There, I'm just catching the edge just to add in another highlight. like so. That's the kind of result you're looking at just there. But no, happy enough with that. Okay, so that's that done. So that should be dry enough. So then we've got shading to do on this abandoned bolter here as well, and around the skulls and the pavement, just to start adding some more effects. But already, I mean, that's tabletop standard, or it surpasses that. I mean, that looks pretty good already. But just want to enhance what's there, but really making good progress now. Alright, so the colour I've got now is the Seraphim Sepia. I'm just taking sort of a decent brush here just for some control. Obviously I want to coat the gun. It's a nice rusty colour. So I say this bolt has been abandoned for perhaps months, even years. So I'm just working it into all of the whole gun. The colour, the black, the red, the silver is all getting a coat of this. And I'll make it look nice and rusty. Also shading around where it is on the pavement here. And just around the base. Just adding another shade, a bit of depth here. And then I might flow. I'll just zoom in here so you can see. Just sort of flooding it a little bit in between some of these cracks, not all of them, but just trying to break up the uniform look. I want it to look nice and random and natural. So something like that. Any excess you can wipe away. Then the deeper areas of shade, I might just drop some in. So in between there. Just adding another brown, it's easily done. Another area of interest, and really I'm sort of flooding it in around the skulls just to make them pop out and stand out a bit more. And I'll flood a bit in here and around, but I hope you can see that. Well, it's just adding a little bit more interest, a bit more depth to it. This is just for those of you that want to add a little bit more finish, a bit more detail. That looks nice and weathered now. So I'll let that dry, and I want to do, there's more work to do on this gun. Again, I want to make that stand out and pop out nicely. So we'll let that dry, and then there'll be a bit more to do to that. But this space is coming along nicely now. Okay, so that's nice and dry. The next colour I want to do is the Agrak Surf shade. So this is a darker brown. And again, I want to coat the whole of the bolter. So we've rusted it, and now we're emphasising the shading here just to make it stand out even more. Same as before, just flooding the whole thing. You're just letting this ink do all the work for you. Shading it, doing a great job. Just making sure it works into all the detail. Then I want to pick out things like the eye sockets on these skulls. You may think, oh yes, they're already shaded, but go darker if you can. It just makes them stand out a bit more. I really want them to stand out. It's the emphasis on this base is these skulls. So I'm going to just stab in the brush into any of the eye sockets that I can see. You're just sort of maximising that shading. It's worth it. These subtle bits that you're doing, I think it's worth doing. And then anywhere else where you think you want to add a bit more shading, maybe want to fill in a few more of the paving slabs here. Not too much because you'll destroy the work that you've already done, but there it is. I've just shaded it a little bit more, and you can see the subtle difference there. Now this gun's ready. Once this is dry, we can just do a few little highlights here and there just to pick out some details on that. And the skulls, what I'll show you next is optional. You don't have to, but I'm actually going to repaint the skulls. I like to repaint them and do them nice and tidy and neat. It just makes them stand out away from the rubble. But it's up to you. You can follow along on this part if you want to or not. But we'll press on here. And again, this you might want to stop at this stage. You're happy enough with the standard that you see, or you can keep going. So basically what I'm doing with the Ashabti bone now, pure Ashabti bone, I'm just looking to repaint these skulls. At the moment they're they're a bit scruffy looking. You don't have to do this, but I'm just going to repaint them. And I've got a decent brush, and I'm just going to go all the areas I've missed. It's a chance just to really paint them neatly and tidily. Not filling in the eye sockets and nasal cavity and so on, but everything else. A chance just to really pick it out, chisel out the detail. And fill it in, so you'll have a skull looking something like that. Nice solid colour now. And then I'll move on to the next one. Nice and tidy. Around the eye sockets, side of the head. And again the next one. And what you're doing is you're separating the skulls from the rubble. Because it does look like they've all been highlighted at the same time, and it can... the eye picks up on that, so I'm just going to go all around these. Re-picking these out, but going neatly around the eye sockets and the nasal cavities and so on. Around we go, so something like that. And then I'm just going to go around now and do the rest of these. So the next stage, you're looking something like this. Next stage, make these skulls pop here. Some with shabby bone, mostly ceramite white. So again, just an off-white. Add a tiny drop more of shabby bone to this mix here. This is where you can make these skulls pop out here. So let's go for this one here. So I'm going to catch the eyebrow, the rim, all the way around. Nasal cavity. Dot any teeth. Then leave a gap on top here between the rim and the forehead. And then pick out the top of the skull. When it comes to the side of the skull, leave that dip shaded, and I'm just picking out the side of the eye socket along the top of the head, just like so, and again around the other side as well. And that effort can be seen. See that skull there? It just pops out away from the rubble. It's all stark and tidier looking. And it stops the skulls from blending in with the rubble. You want them to stand out. That's the emphasis of the base. That's the style that's you're going for. So it pays to be neat. I'm just picking out these eye sockets, nasal cavity, top of the head, leaving a gap between the eyebrow and the top of the skull. And that's another one picked out just then. You see the way they pop out from that? You don't have to do this. I like to do it. I think it looks a lot better. These skulls really stick out. Do another one just near this bulge here, but it's just virtually an off-white colour being used here, like so. So I'm going to go over the rest of the base, or the rest of these skulls here, pick out the detail. So you should have a base that looks something like that with the skulls picked out. I think they just pop out so much better. And it pushes the rubble into the background and emphasises those skulls. So I think that's a good job. Now for the gun here, very, very straightforward, just some iron breaker, and we'll use that to pick out the detail on all of this. So you're partly, and it wouldn't be too neat, I've got a fine brush because I'm going to clip and do some chipping here, but I'm just going to catch the edge of some of this gun. I don't need to repaint the whole thing because I want a lot of it to still look rusty. It's an abandoned weapon. Just going to catch the top of that, catch that back bit, and catch that bit just there. Something like that. And then just put a bit more on. Then for the red here, not the red blood drop, but the red and black casing for the gun. It's going to do a chipping effect on that. See that? Just gives that nice metallic look. And I'm going to add a scrape, which is just 2 dashes, dragging the brush along, and a couple of little dots like that. So you see the way that's an easy technique. Just base colours, 2 washes over the top, and then you're just picking out your metal work, and at the same time adding a bit of chipping. Not too much. You still want it to look like a black and red case in there, but just catching those edges. This is a rusted metallic looking gun. It looks properly abandoned here. It's been left there for maybe even a year. It's just sat in the rubble, abandoned. So base is a lot of the work's finished now. So again, this next bit is optional. I really advise that you don't go too over the top with this. Blood for the blood god. If you want to, you don't have to use this here, but I'm going to add a few blobs, an old brush, and I reckon a bit of blood might accumulate around here. There's old blood. Stab a bit into there, and a few flicks onto the pavement, like so. But really, you don't want to go too over the top. I might add a little bit more, just in between these skulls, just where everything's still rotting away. Getting a bit too involved here, building the narrative just for the space, but just stabbing a little bit more into that. It's so hard not to add more blood. So we'll leave it. We'll leave it there. Getting too much, alright, so we'll leave it there. But a bit of blood, a bit of interest added onto that, to the base. Almost so easy to keep going with that, but you've got to resist here. Less is more when it comes to blood for the blood god. Okay, so that's that done. Let all this dry, and then we're ready to add our flock. Alright, so base is just there ready to go. So for this colour scheme, I love this flock here. Games Workshop Dead Grass. It's brilliant stuff. A whole tub will do multiple armies if you're just using dots of it. So we'll dot some of that around. Then to add a bit more height, a bit more interest, Green Stuff World do grass tufts, 6mm, comes in a pack like this. And in there, if you spread these around, a couple of packs will do a whole army. If you're just dotting them around on bases, comes in a variety of sizes. So larger tufts like this you can use on vehicles and larger bases. For an infantry base like this, I'm just going to use a small tuft, and the amount of space that's been taken up there with different stuff, I haven't got much room, so I'm going to go for 1 tuft. And we'll use PVA glue to fix this in place. So we'll put a blob of PVA onto the palette here. So you're looking to just choose a spot where it can go, and I just take the tuft, I dip it into my blob, and that's coated the underneath, and you're ready to plant it. So we need to put it somewhere. Just being aware of where the... Yeah, we'll go... I think here's the best spot. We'll tuck it in just there. Like so. Then with an old brush, dead grass ready. So with an old brush, I then work some PVA glue in. So I'm going to build it a little bit around this base, this tuft of where it is, just there, like so. I'm going to touch a little bit actually on the rubble and just on top of the bolter, so really make it look like it's been there for ages. A little bit there, and I'm going to go for a little bit on the other side. And again, well, it's up to you. You can go as much or as little as you want, but I don't want to go too much with this. So yeah, just a few tufts, a few blobs, PVA on there. Then I'm just going to drop the grass on top. And drop it on top here, and here, and around the other side. Like so. Tap it down just to help let the grass settle and go onto the glue. And then tap off the excess. Like so. Then I blow on the excess, so, and then take a dry brush and flick off any spare I don't want anywhere else, because it can get caught up in different spots where it's not meant to be. And then I can use the brush to push up change the direction of some of this as well. Get it off the rim. If there's some stuck on the rim and you varnish, then it will stick. Be stuck on the rim. So just tidying up. Yep, happy enough. And that's finished. That'll look even more settled once that, because that PVA is white. When it dries, it'll be clear, and that'll look even better. But there it is. So there's the base then. You've got a lot going on here. Got abandoned weapon, blood, skulls, grass. So very busy base this one, but a nice theme. As I said, that grass, it stands out a bit. It looks all right here off camera, and I know that white's going to disappear once it dries, and it'll be clear through to the base colour underneath. The last stage for this will be a Militarum varnish. Here, this stuff from Games Workshop. Give the whole thing a spray, just the same way as you'd spray a miniature. That'll seal everything in, it'll help the flock to stay on, and it'll spray and cover all of this and protect it nicely. And that base is done. Then the miniature, you just look into position. So you've got a thing in the model that I have, the foot goes in here, the other one's lifted up, so I'll place them in the middle. To glue them, just super glue, the same stuff that you use to glue the skulls on. Should stick the miniature, no problem. I've done it a good few times now, and as long as you don't hit the miniature really hard, then it should stick okay. That's the activator, that's the super glue. The activator is useful enough there for getting the model to stick. I've had a model break, I think, once, but you just super glue it back on again. Shouldn't be too much of a problem. It seems a strong enough bond. But that's the tutorial here. I hope it's been helpful. I've already done one previously for sort of a grey colour scheme, so you can check that out on the channel. This is more of your desert kind of colour scheme here, and brown and this kind of effect seems to blend in with a lot of the terrain that we have. So this kind of terrain, for example, just sits in really nice for the desert and muddy fields and that kind of effect. Does look very cool. So that's the video. Check out Green Stuff World. It's a treasure trove of hobbyists' materials there. The materials that you've seen in the video, and tons and tons and tons more. The great thing about their website as well, everything's at a really good price also. So I heartily recommend checking out greenstuffworld.com. They have a brilliant selection. I've been using a lot of their materials, as you've seen in the video here. And these accessories are great for basing your stuff for Warhammer 40,000. But that's the video. Keep a lookout for more tutorials. Planning hopefully to make a series on basing, so you can pick and choose whichever basing style that you want, follow the tutorial along, and I'll help and guide you to get the results that you see here on the camera. But there it is. Thanks for watching, and tune in next time.